What's up guys, today we're looking at how to pass the guard. We're not looking at a bunch of random techniques, we're looking at a conceptual approach with direct and easy objectives. What I call Jujutsu theory. Understanding simple objectives in Jiu-Jitsu is a lot easier than memorizing techniques. Not only that, but understanding the objectives will also help you better understand and better execute the techniques that you do know or are going to learn. So let's get started. There are only 4 ways to pass the guard. You can go through the guard, around the guard, over the guard, and under the guard. For example, through the guard would be a pass like a knee slide where you're actively entering into the guard to pass. An example of around the guard would be a Toriano pass, or a leg drag, where you're actively seeking to stay out of the guard to pass. Over the guard would be techniques like step-through passes and cartwheel passes, and under would be passes like double under passes. All the ways to pass follow the same principles. Let's look at those principles as well as establish what the guard is. The guard is the legs. Grips are the feet. Frames are the knees and shin. In front of the knee closest to and including the torso is inside position. When in the guard, your opponent's grips and frames together manage distance to prevent you from taking inside position on them, as well as to take inside position on you. In their guard, their grips can both frame to keep or move you further away from them, and hook to pull or keep you closer to them. Primarily, the way your opponent can grip with their feet is either by using their instep as a hook or the flat of the foot to frame. Although they can grip with their heel, but it's less common other than in guards like single leg X. The flat of the foot and the instep are the most common ways to grip with the feet, so grips can both hook and frame, but frames can only frame. Your opponent's frames keep or move you away from them. In their guard, their first layer of defense is their feet and the second layer is their knees. Or you can think of the first layer of defense being grips and the second layer being frames. The way that your opponent grips with their feet determines which guard that they have you in. Every guard is like this. Every guard is just ways of gripping and framing with the feet. Knowing this, you must follow this simple rule of Jiu-Jitsu theory. Keep your opponent's feet off of you. In other words, keep their grips off you. Or in other words, don't let them establish a guard. This is the objective when passing, and it needs to be your primary concern, because if you get past the feet, all that's left is getting past the knees to get past their frames. If you can avoid the feet altogether, you just avoided the first layer of defense and can head straight towards attacking the second layer. Not only that, but it's very difficult for your opponent to attack you without their ability to grip on you, without the ability to hook or frame with their feet. When passing, if you prevent your opponent from putting their feet on you, then you prevented them from establishing a guard. If all they have left is their frames, then you're still in their guard, but they do not have a guard. There's a huge difference. For example, why is headquarters not a guard for the bottom player? Why is it not headquarters guard? What is the difference between headquarters and a guard like De La Hiva, reverse De La Hiva, or lasso? In each case, the passer is attempting to pass through the guard, but with De La Hiva, reverse De La Hiva, or lasso, they have their feet on you, hooking with their instep. They have a real guard because they're gripping with their feet. With no connection of the feet, you're just in their guard, and all you have left is to get past their frames, which is their knees. This is why headquarters is used so commonly, because it's a way to pass through the guard without allowing your opponent to establish a guard. Although in headquarters they do have their inside foot on you, but you should be sitting on it in such a way where it's isolated and can't be used effectively. You need to make sure at all times that neither of your opponent's feet can be used effectively. So understand that yes, you need to keep your opponent's feet off of you, but if they are on you, you either need to get them off of you or isolate them. Shelving from the body lock is another example. Yeah, their foot is on you, but it can't really do anything meaningful because it's isolated. Whereas what's called sticky hooks when body lock passing is an effective counter. Because your opponent is keeping their feet on you, their feet aren't isolated. So it should be clear, always work hard to get your opponent's feet off you or isolate them from use. Then work to get past their frames, which is their knees. But how do you do this? Well, if you've been watching the channel for a while or read my newsletter, then you'll know. Angles beat frames. You can't go through frames because it's their bone that you're fighting against. So logically you're left with 2 options. Either go around the frames yourself by changing your angle, or by changing the angle of your opponent's frames in relation to you. Understanding this leads into another important rule of Jiu-Jitsu theory. Keep your opponent's frames facing away from you. If you can do this, it makes framing impossible and gripping effectively very difficult. all guards follow the same principle. For example, when knee sliding, you can't let your opponent insert a knee shield. You can't let them point the frame towards you. This will keep you too far away from them. You need to keep their knee on the outside, pointing towards the sky, not you. The bottom frame should be pinned down against the mat too, pointing past and away from you. Now let's look at the side smash. It's just a different way of dealing with the frames. In the side smash, we're making both frames point away in the same direction this time, and working to get their feet off of us and then clearing the knees. Remember this, keep your opponent's feet off you and keep their frames pointed away. This video is sponsored by X Martial. I absolutely love the new Hybrid 2.0 shorts X Martial sent me, and I mean it. They're the perfect length, not too short, not too long, and they're light and durable. Not only that, but they have no Velcro, and I personally am not a fan of Velcro as it often ruins my rash guards when they get stuck onto them in the laundry. I love that these only have a drawstring instead, and they don't bunch up in the crotch either, which is very important to me as I'm always on camera, and with my use of slow-mo, things can get pretty awkward pretty quick. But not with these things are amazing, I'm telling you. And I really like that X Martial is always improving. They share the exact same mentality that I do, so head on over to xmartial.com and use discount code Jordan10 for 10% off your order. That's xmartial.com and use discount code Jordan10 for 10% off your order. You don't want your opponent's frames facing you, but you also don't want them facing the mat. You need to prevent their grips from touching you or the mat. If they can put their feet on the mat, then they can stand up, and now you can't pass the guard. This is what's called anti-Jujutsu, and it's very effective. Anti-Jujutsu is strategically disengaging. See here, Jedi is using anti-Jujutsu on me by disengaging to prevent me from getting grips on him. I also had the opportunity to use anti-Jujutsu on him. When he disengages, he isn't controlling my legs and I can stand up anytime. If I did, then he wouldn't be in a position to pass. Here my opponent is unable to keep my feet off the mat. Here I risked being smashed, but I used anti-Jujutsu to my advantage. I stood up and this is what it led to. This sweet V-bar, where I got all the style points. When passing or finishing a sweep, you need to always make sure you keep your opponent's feet off the mat. As anti-Jujutsu is a great tool, a tool you need to prevent your opponent from using on you. So remember this, keep your opponent's feet off of you and frames pointing away from you, and also keep your opponent's feet off the mat and frames pointing away from the mat. Turtle is a great example of you not wanting your opponent's frames to face the mat. Yes, your opponent turtling can be good for you if you can take the back, but people that are good at turtling can make it difficult to do so. Letting your opponent turtle can be a risk, especially against wrestlers, judokas, or sambo practitioners, because all these sports, one of the main objectives is to keep their backs off the mat, so they get really good at getting up off the mat. This guy wrestled for Team Canada and faced guys like Jordan Burroughs. He was really hard to keep down. The levels of defense also apply to standing, with the second layer of defense being frames on the mat and the first layer being feet on the mat. You can't pass guards when your opponent stands up, so you can't let them stand up. Alright, let's recap. To pass, you need to keep your opponent's feet off of you so they can't establish a guard. You need to make sure that your opponent's frames face away from you so they can't be used to keep you away from them. You also don't want your opponent's feet or frames on the mat because they can use them to stand up. With this knowledge, you can better understand the objectives of guard passes you learn in class or online and what makes them successful. All of this I've written about in my newsletters. You can get all my Jiu-Jitsu theory and concepts first by signing up for my newsletter. The link is in the description, and my Jiu-Jitsu theory course will be out very soon. Alright, if you enjoyed this, the biggest favor you can do me is liking and commenting on the video. I always super appreciate that. I like to thank my patrons who support the channel. I super appreciate you guys. I upload the classes I teach in my gym to my Patreon, so if you're interested in that, check that out. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. If you're still here, please leave a comment or fist bump, and I'll see you guys next time.